Good day, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick review of this little mini Jeep that I bought for my son from saferwholesale.com. I'm not related to them in any way, and so I thought I'd provide an independent review. They have a fair amount of videos on their websites, and I would say for the most part the products are well represented. I didn't find any particular area where, you know, the Jeep didn't perform as advertised. I just wanted to mostly provide some additional information. This one you see right here is the Army green. You know, so you see it's got the US Army on it, and it's got the upgraded package with it that has the better rims and tires, and I think it's called the deluxe package or something like that. It's got the shoulder seat belts in the back, and I think a little bit nicer seat, and as said, hopefully the wind doesn't blow in the microphone too much. As said, these nicer rims, and I think a few other things like the gear indicator on the dashboard. This seat actually slides forward and backward. Part of the reason I got the upgraded package too, the seat actually folds down. I think the standard seat is fixed, and then it also slides forward and backwards. My son is still pretty young, and he's pretty small for his age, so being able to slide the seat forward was a must for him. And also, since he's pretty small, you can see the gas pedal is pretty high off the ground, and so unless you have big feet, then it's hard to be really accurate with the throttle. And also it's hard for him. You can see the lever on the brake is pretty short, so you know, for an adult you can push on it, you put your weight into it and push it pretty hard, but for a child, then you know, if you're not real heavy, then you need that extra leverage. So I put that piece of metal on it to give him extra leverage. I mean, it basically brings the point closer to his body, so he doesn't have to extend out his leg too far, and at the same time it gives you extra leverage on the brakes. And then also I screwed this 2x4 in there to, you know, raise the area for his heel a little bit, so he can put his heel on the 2x4, and so that way it's much easier for him to be accurate with the gas. It is pretty peppy, particularly in the first gears, and so for him to be able to have good throttle control, that was needed. And conversely, I'm 6'2" and 190 pounds, and I can still drive it as well. If I slide the seat backwards, it's not too terribly. I mean, I kind of gotta sit like a cricket basically with my legs folded up, but there's other than that, they have no problems driving it as well. And so the gear indicator, like this thing, it basically works similar to a motorcycle, where you I think if you pull it backwards, it's ratchet, so you know, you go first, second, third, like that, and then you go second, first, and then neutral, and then if you push it forward again, it'll be in reverse. It doesn't work right now because the engine's not running, then the gears don't mesh properly, but when it's actually running, then it works fine. And I think that this is part of the deluxe package too, that it has the gear indicator, which is actually nice, so you know what gear it's in. It's got a speedometer, but it's in kilometers, and mine never worked, and I didn't really care very much, so I've never bothered to even look at why it's not working. And then it's got so that's the choke. This is the headlights on and off. The headlights work directly off the engine, they don't work off the battery, so they only work when the engine's running. And then this is the turn signal. It's actually got working turn signals, so you can do that right, middle, and left, and then you can signal. And then this is just the ignition switch, so it's on and start. I don't have the main switch off now. Personally, I've never actually used the seat belt, so I don't drive very fast with it anyway, but I do like actually having this roll bar on here. That's actually pretty nice. my other kids will get in the back, and so the roll bar gives them something to hold on to. That way they don't fall out or anything like that. And this is actually pretty sturdy. You can actually, you know, hold on to this quite well. So that stuff I would say is quite well made. When I first got it, it was actually missing the spare tire, and so I filed a warranty claim, and they handled it really well. They shipped me a new spare tire right away, and so I was able to see how the warranty is, and it's pretty good actually. There was no problem getting another a tire. One thing I will say is, you know, being that this is Chinese made and it comes directly from China, you know, some of the areas, like you see this thing is only 6 months old, and I don't know if you can see it here, but the tires are already starting to get dry rotted, so I don't think these tires will last me more than a year or so. They're, you know, extremely poor quality rubber, and there's some other areas where that was evident as well. The battery that comes with it was such poor quality that it only lasted about a month or two. Guys, I'm taking a video. Can you step back, please? So that's the engine. And so this is the fuel line. It's got a little fuel pump in it. This is like it uses the pulsing from the vacuum to operate a little diaphragm pump that pumps the fuel. So that's the fuel tank. It's just right on top of the engine. The original battery mounts down in there, and you actually have to fill it with what do you call it, sulfuric acid yourself. And like I said, it didn't last more than a month or two. If I left the car sitting for 2 weeks, the battery would be dead, and you'd have to charge it again. And it actually came with a charger, and even the charger broke the first time I used it. So I plugged it in, and it was charging, and then when it came back 2 hours later, the charger had stopped working. So that's completely useless. So for now, I actually just you can see the car's kind of dusty. It sat for a while because I bought a new battery. For now, I just zip tied it to the front bumper, and I drilled a small hole in the fender to mount a disconnect switch. That way, I don't know if the battery was draining because it's a bad battery or because something was draining it, but it's good practice anyway to have a disconnect switch. So this is the brakes. It's actually got real hydraulic brakes, which is cool. It's got disc brakes. I don't know if you can see it in there. Might be, yeah, there you go. You can see the disc brakes in there. It's got the 4-wheel disc brakes. Actually on the back it's got a rigid axle. It doesn't have a differential. It's just got a straight axle, goes left to right, and so it's got only one brake on the back, which is fine. You don't want to have too much braking in the back anyway. Then you can see the suspension. I mean, this stuff is all pretty well built. You see, it's got the coilover shocks and the A-arms and or control arm or whatever you call that. And so I was quite impressed how well that's made. Oh, and it's got the rack and pinion steering. You can see that on the bottom here, I think. Yeah, there you go. It's the rack and pinion steering. It's got amazingly accurate steering, and even my 6-year-old, he can steer the car just fine. Maybe not when stopped, but at least as long as you're moving, he's able to steer the car just fine. And when I got it, the adjustment on the carburetor was way out, and it kept stalling and stalling and stalling, and so I finally figured out that so this is the idle speed. I don't know if you can see this well. That's the idle speed adjustment, and then in here there's actually a little copper plug in there that prevents you from changing the adjustment. So I just used like a drill to drill the copper plug out, and after turning this thing out a few turns, then it actually runs much better. So I highly recommend that you do the same if you have the same problems as me. And let's see. gas pedal is down there. It's got a cable that operates the gas, and it's got a bit of a problem. Like, it's got a centrifugal clutch, and so if you put it in gear and you let go if you're stopped and you let go of the gas too quickly, then it still wants to stall, just because the clutch, if you push the gas, the clutch engages, and then when you let off the gas, the clutch is a little slow to disengage, and that tends to stall the engine. So I actually bought a throttle, what do you call it, a dash pot. Like older cars that had carburetors actually had this same problem as well. And so you can buy a dash pot. It's a Holly part number. You can buy it complete with the bracket and everything. And all that does is it's just a little diaphragm with the spring, and so whenever you push on the gas, that diaphragm will extend, and then when you let go of the gas pedal, it'll compress the diaphragm, and it'll let go of it a little bit slowly. And so that gives the clutch some time to disengage and prevent the engine from stalling. I haven't installed that yet, but I got it laying there, and so that's my next project with this car. But other than that, I'm really happy with it. I think I paid a little over $2,000 or $2,500. Part of it was shipping too. It took about 3, maybe 4 weeks to get here, but no problem with that. Yeah, I wanted to order it for Christmas, so I ordered it, I think, late October, and it got here by about Thanksgiving, so it took no more than a month to get here. Some of this stuff is like, even this, like, there's some other, like I say, kind of, poor quality type things here. Like, you see, this is the reservoir for the brakes, and then this hose is completely kinked, so I don't know if you can see it in here. That hose is kinked, so I don't know how they expect the reservoir to really work properly. And there was another place where I think the fuel line was kinked. It does actually work and run. Oh yeah, right here. So you see how I don't know if it's visible in here, but that fuel line tends to kink as well. So probably there'll be little things like that. It's got a fuel shut off too, but I've never actually closed it. I don't think it really makes a difference, being that it has a fuel pump. It just pumps the fuel under a slight pressure into the carburetor, so you don't really need to have the shut off. And yeah, so if I turn this on, so you see now it indicates what gear it's in. So you see that was reversed. This is neutral. So it's kind of stuck between gears now, because it's like I say, it doesn't engage really well when you're and it's got a horn, and this is the turn signal. The turn signal actually does work off the battery, so you see that's the turn signal. Let me show you the back axle. So that's just, you see, it's got the single disc brake on the back axle, and it's got the chain drive. So there's adjustments on there too. You can so you can tension the chain. It's got the coilover shocks, and so it's got a straight rear axle. So the straight rear axle seems to really help it with traction. I mean, it's just two-wheel drive, but it seems to have really good traction. Actually, I've never had any problem with getting stuck, even though we have, a fair amount of sand and whatnot here. Oh yeah, it comes with a fuel tank that mounts right here, but the fuel tank actually has a sticker on it that says it's not actually meant for fuel, it's only a cosmetic thing, so I didn't bother to install it. So yeah, even the strap on the battery it's amazing. Like, I don't know how you can make rubber that's completely deteriorates within a couple of months, but the strap that holds the battery on even completely fell apart. Like it was just laying in two pieces, hanging under the car. So hopefully there's not going to be too many of those problems. But you know, as far as I can tell, there's nothing really wrong with the engine or anything like that. And of course, it's not something you're going to drive 100,000 miles anyway. So I would say it'd be nice. Oh yeah, and the engine comes pre-filled with oil too, which is kind of nice. It's not real important, but you know, you pretty much just put gas in it. And well, you do have to put the tires on and the windshield. The windshield is another thing that's part of the better package. I think the standard windshield is a little bit more flimsy, although I think it does actually fold forward. This windshield doesn't fold, but then it's more sturdy. Like this has actually a pretty decent support. Did I tighten that enough? The engine, the oil fill plug is right there. So I checked the oil. So this has the centrifugal clutch in it. That's the oil fill plug. You know, it's got a pretty decent size frame on it. So I think overall the car is going to hold up for a pretty long time once I get the initial kinks worked out. So anyway, that's that. Oh yeah, when I was working with customer service for the manufacturer, somehow my Gmail account flagged all their emails as spam, and so initially I thought they weren't responding, and so I called them being a little bit frustrated, and then they said, well, we've been emailing you and you didn't respond, so we closed your ticket. And sure enough, when I checked my spam folder, then there's all their emails. So I don't know why Gmail flags their emails as spam, but they do. So if you email with them and you don't hear back, be sure to check your spam folder. I think they do send a fair amount of commercials. You know, they do have a bit of the Billy Mays gene going on. I would say they sell a whole bunch of different stuff and they market pretty heavily. So I think that's probably what got them blacklisted with Gmail. But as far as I can tell, they're a legitimate business, and there's no reason that you would not want to buy from them. So anyway, that's about it. So if you're considering one of these cars, hopefully this will be helpful information to you. And if you have any more questions, just hit me up in the comments. Alright, take care.